Well, earlier today, I spoke to former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo about all of it. Joining us now is Fox News contributor, former Secretary of State, former Director of the CIA, Mike Pompeo. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for being with us. Your reaction to these aggressive Iranian tactics, I mean, leading to the death of an American, our retaliation, and they retaliate again. How are we in a place where they feel like they can do this?
Well, Pete, thanks for having me on. It's disturbing. In some ways, it's no different than what the Iranians have been at for quite a while. Right? They are the world's largest state sponsor of terror. They'd like the United States out of the region. And more importantly, they'd like to control all of the Middle East. This is their objective. When the Biden administration came in, though, they fundamentally changed their tactics. And you see the result of that. My condolences to the American who was killed and his family, and to those who were injured as well. But now we've got Iran, who has now 78 times since January of 2021 attacked Americans in this particular region. They only know strength, Pete. They only know power. They only know seriousness when we appease them, when we sit across the table from them and try and guarantee them the pathway to a nuclear weapon, or when we permit the Iranians to send drones to support the Russians to kill Ukrainian civilians who we're trying our best to prevent. This is the kind of thing you'll see the Iranians do. We have to respond in a way that is serious. We have to protect our soldiers who are there on the ground and our Marines who are there on the ground. This is how America operated for 4 years, and now we see a fundamentally different picture of what's taking place in the Middle East with respect to Iran in particular.
How in the world did it fall apart so quickly and catastrophically, in that you've got Iran now cutting deals with Saudi Arabia, and we've got the Sunni and Shia coming together, and then you have the two big communist superpowers in Russia and China coming together, all under an umbrella seemingly against us. How did they unleash this?
Yeah, Pete, it does feel like the wheels have come off in the last 2.5 years. There's no doubt about that. I think about it, we had a Chinese spy balloon fly over our country for 5 days. We now had the Russians take down a UAV. No response yet that's at least been overt that I'm aware of. We had a president say that a minor incursion to Ukraine might be okay. Right? These are the kind of things that signal to the bad guys, you can feel free to move about the cabin. So if you ask the question, how did America lose its place in the world so quickly? I think it's a failure of leadership. I think we're back to the Obama years of leading from behind and apologizing for America. For 4 years, we didn't apologize once for our country. We didn't send the 82nd Airborne or Marine brigades. Yep. We just used American power and American influence in a way that protected the American people.
Yeah, and Qasem Soleimani, the Baghdad airport. I mean, that sent as powerful a signal as you can imagine. What would you do? How do we reverse this? If America were to lead properly in a way that, you know, the country chanting death to America isn't shooting at our guys, what does that look like?
It requires absolute moral clarity about the things that matter to the American people. It's not, Pete, it's not about fighting every conflict everywhere. It's about clear demarcation of how you use American power. So think about some simple things you could do. Start with energy, right? We've walked away from providing American energy to our friends and partners around the world. Make sure that we have a military that is not thinking about every vehicle being clean by carbon neutral by 2040, but rather thinking about how we're going to defeat our adversaries. Begin by centrally understanding the founding traditions of our nation and protecting that and preserving that all across the world. And then growing an American economy that underwrites the most powerful military in the history of civilization. We know how to do each of these things, Pete. We can do that. We can do that and protect our borders. It's the model that we had for 4 years. We just simply need to get back to that. It's in the Reagan model of deterring our adversaries from thinking they can walk all over things that matter to the American people.
You know, you said it feels like the wheels have come off, but it feels like it could get a lot worse. I mean, there was a report even today of China yet again contesting our freedom of movement in the South China Sea, more territorial claims by them threatening our ships. Do you think in the next 2 years we could see more war than we're already looking at?
You know, Pete, I worry about this. I worry about a series of cascading crises. We haven't even mentioned the fact that Chairman Kim in North Korea is back to his old tricks again that we had largely caused him to quit, right? Firing long-range missile tests into the sea off of the coast of Japan. No, it could certainly have a series of cascading crises that flow from what's taking place in Europe today. You get it back the old-fashioned way. Good hard work, determination, building out friends and allies, holding them accountable, making the Europeans and the countries in Southeast Asia do their fair share. And Pete, when you get that right, it works. It's mutually reinforcing. You're right about the strike on Soleimani. It not only set the Iranians back and made clear we weren't going to be like President Obama and draw a red line and then walk away from it. We were going to defend the things we said we'd defend. And when we did, not only did the Ayatollah take note, but Chairman Kim took note, Xi Jinping took note, the Taliban took note. Everybody understood that we were going to do the things we said we would do. And that's the model President Biden needs to adopt. Don't make promises that you're not prepared to defend.
Yeah, we saw those red lines in a previous administration before the Trump administration when they were crossed. And when you don't enforce them, you get more. Secretary Mike Pompeo, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete. Have a good evening, sir.
You too.